Welcome to today's meeting of Democrats of Greater Tucson. My name is Larry Bodine, and I'm the president. And I want to let everybody know that this is the 100th meeting that we have recorded. And we've created an online database of 100 videos and speakers and candidates going back to March 2020. This includes popular speakers like Councilmember Steve Kozachik, Pima County Democratic Party Chair Bonnie Heidler, State Senator Kirsten Engel, columnist Tim Steller, and on and on and on. So visit the DGT website and check it out. And then I'll put the link to it in the chat. And with that, let's do a couple of announcements here. Sandy Binion, I wondered if you would go out of order and tell us about our upcoming programs.
As I started to say, this is the last program for June, and thank you, Diane, for agreeing to speak to us today. So this is what I have coming up in July. On July 5th, we have Miranda Lopez, who is the new director of Pima County Democratic Office. She'll be telling us, they've opened up and what's going on over there. On the 12th, I have Andres Como, who is a state representative from LD3, and he's going to fill us in on what he believes that the state house, Arizona State House, did and didn't do from his perspective. Followed on the 19th by Randy Freeze, who is a candidate for Congress from, well, what is presently CD2. Who knows what will be called. And then for the last of our meetings in July, I have Katie Hobbs, who is a candidate for governor of Arizona.
Fabulous. What a great lineup. I look forward to all these meetings, and thank you so much for lining up the speakers and all the hard work you do. Just wanted to share my screen here so that you can see how to join Democrats of Greater Tucson. Talk about a great organization where you can be with Democrats, you can hear Democratic speakers, and it really gives you that enthusiasm and makes your heart feel good. So all you need to do is go into the homepage of Democrats of Greater Tucson, and you click on that little Join Now button. And the beauty of it is, there it is, it's all set up. It says donate $20, but basically you're joining for $20. It's, the best bargain in politics in all of Arizona.
I'm going to bring application forms with me tomorrow for anybody who would like to come to the Drinking Democratically meeting and sign up right then and there.
Brilliant. Great idea. We had a couple people do that last time, and the more the merrier. Turning now to our secretary, Christina Early, also our party director. Tell us about the Drinking Democratic meeting.
Okay, that's a new title. So party director. Okay, thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm glad you're here today on Monday. Hope to see a lot of you at the Drinking Democratically happy hour at Augustine's Kitchen in the Mercado. That's on Congress Street, just west of I-10 downtown. There is on the DGT website a link for registering that has information about the event, and also it has a map to let you know how to get there. I'm hoping that everybody is ready to meet face to face and talk some politics. The Augustine's Kitchen has kindly offered us their banquet room at no cost. What that does mean is we won't have a server, so we will have to go to the bar to get our own drinks, soft drinks. We can order at the bar. They're off their happy hour menu. And there's a link, I believe, in the invitation that'll give you an idea of what kind of food they have. Last time we had about 30 people. We've got 30 people registered, and we just had the greatest time. Met some new people, and I'm hoping everybody will come. It'll be a great time. And the biggest thing I do want you to know is if you do want to have dinner at the kitchen there, to go ahead and reach out to the restaurant itself, Augustine's Kitchen, and make those reservations. We're close to the 4th of July, so let's see some red, white, and blue out there. And I hope to see y'all tomorrow.
Looking forward to it. Thanks so much for setting everything up. Let me introduce our speaker, and that is Diane Nevill. She is the chair of the Legislative District 10 Democrats, covering precincts all the way from Campbell Avenue all the way out to Saguaro National Park. Diane grew up in Memphis, but she's lived in Arizona now for 45 years. And she worked as a librarian in public and community colleges for many years. Today, Diane said she would describe LD10 and its territory system. LD10 emphasis on building up precincts in anticipation of redistricting and other projects underway in LD10. Diane has a storied history. She started out as an appointed precinct committee person, then a territory lead for the Udall territory. Then she became a member of the operations team, the membership chair, an elected PC, and finally, chair. And with that, Diane, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Okay, well, who are we? In LD10, we have almost 140,000 registered voters, and more than 56,000 of them are registered Democrats. We have about 41,000 registered Republicans and almost 41,000 registered others. So we know that we do have the edge on the Republicans, but we don't take that for granted. We, in the past, have had a Republican actually represent LD10 in the state legislature, so we don't want to see that happen again. So we are going after every vote we can possibly get. All of those independents who lean democratically, we're after them. We have 155 PCs and almost 300 volunteers. And we send out our weekly newsletter to 950 people. About half of those are mailing list only. So they're not active, but I've got my eye on them because if they're taking the newsletter, I think they've got an interest. And what we do is we reach out to voters through formal coordinated projects that target specific niches of voters. So here we are, and Larry did describe our precinct that does start at Campbell and goes all the way out east. And you're going to notice we have 49 precincts, and in this map, we've got different color designations, and those are showing the different territories. Our 49 precincts are divided up into 9 territories. Some are smaller, having only 4 precincts. That's the one that's in the light blue that kind of surrounds Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. And then others have mostly have 5 and some have 7. So that is our LD10 map, and we're going to talk about the territory system. But how is LD10 structured? Well, we have the board, just like everybody else has the board, and they set the strategy and the vision for what they want us to do. And right underneath the board, there's the operations team. The operation team designs and figures out what the projects are going to be. Then we've had the volunteer coordinator that is part of the operations team to be the conduit to the territories. And for each territory, we have territory leaders. Now, some territories might only have a single leader, others might have 2 or 3. And it's up to those territory leaders just how they want to interface. If you have 2 territory leaders, they might decide to work as a team and work together for the whole territory, whether it's 4, 5, 6, however many precincts there are. Or if there are 3, sometimes they even decide to divvy them up and each territory lead be responsible for a few of those precincts. We really let them decide how they want to do it. And you'll notice our territory names kind of go along with, it could be an area of town or a street or whatever, something significant. I live in the Udall territory because I am close to Udall Park. We had a retreat in January, and we came up with our goals for the year, and we were really thinking for a year because we knew redistricting was coming. And so the retreat had not only our board, it had the operations team, and it had our territory leads, because frankly, I think it's good to have many voices when you're trying to figure out what you want to do. It's good to hear from more than just a few. So the very first thing we wanted to work on is to make sure that each precinct had at least one engaged and well-informed PC by the end of 2021. And that's important because we have 6 precincts that don't have any PCs. Some don't even have volunteers. So, I mean, you know, this is important, something we really need to address. Also, we are focusing on newly registered and sporadic voters this year. And we're doing that through messaging and communication infrastructure, where we are going to engage and mobilize these voters to get them to cast their ballots. Every vote counts. Well, how does the ops team and the territory system work? Well, our ops team has about 10 members, and we are now including a revolving cast of territory leads, because I was the first territory lead that came on the operations team. And my role, at least the way I saw it, was to, how does this affect the PCs and volunteers? How does this project work? How's it going to work for them? I mean, my eye was always looking out for the people that I represented and the projects that they were doing. How is this going to affect them? How are they going to be able to do it well? So when I became chair, I really wanted to bring more territory leads into this operations team, because I believe you have buy-in when you are there, when you see how projects are designed and how they are executed, then you have more sense of, this is important, this is something we can do. And again, they have voices, they're not shy in telling us what they're thinking. So with our operations team, which we design the projects, there is a project leader for every one of these projects. You know, the who, what, when, where, why, how, plus measures of success. These are all considered. And we not only design them, write them up, write the scripts, we have training for every single project we do. There's a training beforehand for all of the people who've signed up to take part. We want people to feel empowered, that they know what they're doing and they know why they're doing it. And then with our territory leads, as I said, we have, I think, about 20 territory leads right now for 9 precincts. So you can see we have multiples, which is really good. You need really more than one. But the ops team meets monthly with the territory leads. And by the way, our operations team meets every week for 2 hours on Thursday. So we have 2-hour sessions every week with the operations team. With the ops team meeting with the territory leads, it's just once a month, again, for a 2-hour session. And at the territory meetings, the chair is always there to talk about what's going on in LD10. That would be me. And we've invited Bonnie to come talk about what's happening at PC headquarters. And then we go over current projects that we're doing or what is coming up. We give the results of whatever happened. We talk about how well we did or what we need to do differently. And then the territory leads always have a chance to talk about what's going on in their precincts, what's happening, what do we need to know, what are problems that we've got. So it's a lot of give and take. And it's very important, I think, the feedback that we are a team. You know, we're all a team working together for the goal of electing Democrats. And now we are going more toward precinct leads as a part of the whole system, because redistricting is coming. And we want to make sure that our precincts are strong no matter where they land. So precinct leads now are going to oversee the individual precincts, but they work along with the territory leads. And we're going to go for more volunteers, more PCs, and our precinct leads are taking that on. Why does a territory system work? Well, it builds a larger network of leaders in the LD because people are stepping up to take charge of different things. And that helps. That really matters. So, and we get to know the PCs and volunteers who live in the nearby precincts. I live in 118, which is just south of Tango Verde Wash. And now when I was the territory lead, I got to know somebody who lived over in 107 that was in my in my territory that lives across from where the Gregory School is. I probably wouldn't have known her. She lives not that close to me, but she's in my territory. So I got to know people there. You get to know people who live near you. And then with the territory system, we have the ability to fill in gaps when a precinct isn't, doesn't have enough people to do whatever project they need. We are working together and we can help each other out. And then it goes on to the whole LD. We have some territories that are not as fortunate to have as many people to volunteer as others. So those of us who have more, we share and we work in those other territories. So it just is a real good feel good system that we're there for each other. So what did we do? What did we do in 2020? We were going from project to project, and probably most of you were doing the same thing because we wanted to make a change. So in January of last year, we started calling the independents to vote in the PPE. And of course, we told them, yes, you're going to have to switch to the Democratic Party. You can switch back afterwards if you want to, but we noticed most of them didn't. Most of them stayed. In March and April, we started running PEVL programs. So we started first with persuading the highly engaged Democrats to change to PEVL. And then the next one was persuading the good and sporadic Dems to switch to PEVL. Then finally, we got to the persuading the Democratic leaning independents who had been contacted by Mission for Arizona to switch to PEVL. And we were gauging that support from Mark Kelly. Then we had the primary ballot chase in July with the newly registered voters. In August, we had writing projects for those voters who didn't have phone numbers, and we had to send them something in the mail. And then we also delved into our LD10 database, looking for more active volunteers. Sometimes you have a big database, but how many of them are actually working for you? And so we were going after those people that are already in our database. And that is where we were calling the mailing list only people. We found so many said yes, yes, and they began to get involved. So that's a treasure trove right there. August through November, we were calling for Mission for Arizona, and we did another ballot chase. So 2020 in a nutshell. We had so many LD10 managed projects, and we attempted to reach almost 16,000 of those folks, but we had 4,000 conversations. So that's not so bad. You know how people don't answer the phone, but we got to talk to 4,000 of them. We had been running weekly voter registration tables at the public library until COVID, and we did a lot of mailings of brochures and postcards. Plus, in August, we merged with Mission for Arizona and worked with them all the way through to the end. So did we make a difference? We say, yes, we did. We had a statistical study, 2019, the city elections, that ballot chase. We had a target group of Democrats who had a sporadic voting history, almost 6,500 of them. And then we did a control group. We actually pulled out 500 of those people, identical, but we just didn't call them. We found out that the target group turnout was 4.2% higher than the control group. So we know by calling, touching them, whatever it is, to let them know you need to vote makes a difference. For our 2020 general election ballot chase, we did not want to not call anybody. So we called them all. But we found that of the target voters we spoke to, 88% actually voted. Of the ones that we could only leave messages, 82% voted. And for the ones that we didn't call, only 76% voted. So we're convinced this is the way to go. What are the benefits of our targeted approach? Well, it shows that we've got a proven increase in Democratic votes. We are trying to encourage voting as a habit, and that's what's very important now with our new PEVL change. We are improving campaign efficiency by getting more early voters and updating our voter lists. We're forming relationships and selling the Democrats' accomplishments. And we're building on our experiences and becoming more effective next time. So what are we doing this year? Well, we started with writing letters to new voters, and we do it as the ban updates. And we created a writing team. Well, we invited people who like to write to start writing letters to the editor. And also, I've asked them to take on the IRC public comments too, because they like to write. Now, some of these people are active volunteers, but some just really want to write. And that's okay, because they are making their voices heard. Most of their letters are going to the Star. And the neat thing about this writing team is we are on Zoom every other week, and people just talk about this is what's going on, and they just talk about things that they might want to write about. But then they're very collegial with each other. And a new person who's never been writing before will send a first draft of a letter out to the group. And the group will give feedback. And over and over again, I've seen this happen. It goes back, the person works on it, then sends it out again, and more suggestions until finally they're happy. Everybody's happy. The person who's writing is happy. They submit it and get it published. We had a meet and greet with Mission for Arizona volunteers who had live in LD10, but they hadn't been active with us. And so we have incorporated a lot of them into our organization. And we still have a nice list of people that we're going to continue to go after because we know they care. We are just finishing up our voter outreach of a listening project, which is right out of the Democratic Handbook, listening. You're going to listen to what the voters care about. And that's what we did. And again, we were targeting newly registered and sporadic voters to find out what are the issues that matter the most to them. So we're not only making note of it, but we're going to pass on anonymously, I can't get it out, without any names of who is caring about what. And if it's something local, it'll go to elected officials here. Or if it's something statewide, it will be to our House and Senate representatives, or if it's federal, it'll go there. But what do the people really care about? And we actually did the same with our own members in our newsletter. So I'm anxious to see how that compares with what the public was thinking. And finally, in August, we're going to hold a thank you celebration for all of our members, because everybody took part, whether they were calling, they were writing, they were donating money. You know, I think LD10 has a right to feel good about what we've done. And we're also taking part in the city elections again, doing ballot chases. But last but not least, there's preparation for redistricting and the 2022 election. I want us to build that army. You know, we thought we had to build an army for 2020. Oh gosh, we need a much bigger army for 2022. And we're going to do it by growing and nurturing our precincts, by targeting, I call them super voters. These are the people who always vote, but they are super voters. And we want them to become volunteers and PCs in all of our neighborhoods. So we are not taking on any new projects in August and September, and we are going to focus on our precincts. And so now these new precinct leads, they are going to start the process of reaching out to the neighborhoods where we don't have anybody working it. So whether we do house parties, whatever, each precinct, it's going to be up to them. How do you want to handle it? But we need to build that army, and we need to grow and nurture and have our super voters. If we get one person in a neighborhood who's a really good voter, they're going to know other people in their neighborhood who also can help them. And so that's what we need, the spider web to go out and build up more people. We want to elect them. Any questions?
All right. Wow. What an impressive program, Diane. Quick question, and that is about your listening project. Tell me some of the things that you found out through that.
I saw that Mike Weingarten was joining us. Mike was in charge of this project, Larry, and I would like for Mike to speak up and share.
We're a little premature as far as having a true summary of all the results, but that's where we're going to be heading. We found people concerned about issues all across the board, you know, from the economic issues to healthcare issues. Voter suppression was clearly one of the prime topics on people's minds now. What was kind of interesting, though, was that there were a lot of people who were not all that engaged in the political process. And I think the conversations, in addition to requesting information from them in terms of what was important to them, also was important in getting them to maybe open their eyes up and think a little bit more about what was going on around them. Once again, we were doing this all, quite honestly, with the eye towards 2022. You know, these are people who may vote sporadically, maybe they vote in just presidential elections and don't normally come out for midterms. And these are folks that we want to start building the relationships with now, get the dialogues going now, and hopefully get them to turn out in 2022. So I'm skirting around the specifics because I really don't have the summary quite ready yet, but that will come out and we'll be publishing that pretty broadly within our organization. We'd be happy to send you a copy as well.
Mike, it sounds fantastic. We have a couple of people who have their hands raised. So let's go to Paul Stapleton Smith.
What is the confidence that Democrats as a party absolutely are delivering? But what do you think broadly? Does it matter really that we have a Democratic majority to our citizens, to our voters? Does it really matter that we have a Democratic majority in the Senate, a Democratic majority in the House, that we have the White House?
I think what we found was that the majority of the people that we talked to who expressed opinions were very much siding with the Democrats in terms of their allegiance, and were extremely grateful that the change had been made. We used as kind of like an icebreaker if a person wasn't coming up with specifics, just a general question about, how well were they, how are they feeling about the current administration in Washington and the level of support that they felt for them. And overwhelmingly, the people that answered that question were very supportive. And as I said, some you could tell they were wiping beads of sweat from their brow that the election turned out the way it did, as opposed to going the other way. But I think that the challenge that we need to be realistic about is that there's a big group of people, specifically in this niche, that are just not that initiated and not that, they're not following closely the way we are, which maybe can be expected. But there's a lot of misinformation or just information that is getting missed by this group. So I think it's really points out the importance of keeping the attention on the voter outreach efforts, and it's not too early to start this. I think that's what it proved.
We've got a question from Jackie Romer. Go right ahead.
Were you seeing something that made you take this very organized approach, or was it just a way that you happened to work and that's what you did and you saw some good results from it? Have people copied this the way you're working, or is everybody very independent on how they're approaching their own district, do you think?
When I came on board, of course, I didn't start until 2018 in the summer. The territory system was already in effect. Bonnie Heidler started it. Mike, you were here earlier, so maybe you've got the background on how that came about.
When we started that, we were all looking ahead to 2020. We were fortunate that we had a number of folks who had project management experience in a prior lifetime or whatever, and that basically played out to our advantage within this group. We did get pretty structured, very focused on the execution steps for these projects. In terms of deciding what we do, we have kind of learned by experience that we keep referring to sporadic voters. These are all generally Democratic registered, but sporadic voting histories or new voters. They're basically voters who have not developed an habitual voting pattern. Those were the folks, the statistics that Diane shared earlier. It was with those folks that we found the greatest impact that we could be making.
Okay.
It's not like we want to ignore our 4x4, solid Democratic voters, but that they're going to show up. It's not that we want to ignore them, but it's like, where can we actually get votes that would not have otherwise happened?
Susie Anderson, go ahead.
Hi there. Well, thank you both. My question is about all of those people who only look at what's happening in their lives and don't look at any farther than that as to whom to vote for. Is that part of what your listening project is? How do you get to those people? They might listen to the news or read a newspaper or something online, probably. I'm one of those old people who loves to read a newspaper. It may be a flood for a while. It may be a storm for a while. They go on their day to day. What's happening to them? Do they understand the difference between what's happening now with our slim lead? Do they understand what the change is and what it's about?
That is a problem. So many people have cut their regular television stations and just go for streaming. You know, I am reading it digitally, and a lot of people don't read it, period. So unfortunately, a lot of the information they get is from their coworkers, their friends, their neighbors, Facebook. And so it's not good, solid, hard information that they're getting. It's all over the place. That is a big issue. It could be that it's through things that we can mail to them or when we talk to them on their phone or whatever. But it's a problem, this lack of information.
One approach that you take is by encouraging people to realize that if they're focused on their everyday lives, it's the things that are happening locally and in Phoenix that are affecting their everyday lives, sometimes more than what's going on in Washington. And drawing those connections can sometimes help. But I will say, you kind of touched on something that goes a little deeper too. This project was, to be perfectly honest, kind of frustrating for our volunteers. They had just come off of another project where they were they were doing recruiting for trying to get new volunteers, and they were talking to the cream of the crop of the most supportive people. And then all of a sudden we started calling this group who were less knowledgeable, less engaged. They were supportive when they had opinions, but a lot of them were not interested in talking. And the hit rate in terms of the number of people who were willing to engage in conversations was much lower. And that's frustrating for the volunteers. What you have to realize when you do this kind of volunteering, and I'm sure you've all been there, is that you just have to look at the glass as being half full instead of half empty on these kinds of things. You also need to have a basic respect for the voter. They may not be knowledgeable about what's going on. It's really important not to be judgmental as you are talking to them about that, but just try to open the eyes a little bit. And this work is usually work of many touches. So we see what we're doing right now as being one touch, one positive constructive touch to a voter that may not have been really caring to think about Democrats versus Republicans or politics at all. And it will be another touch later on at some other project, or maybe some other organization touching them. And eventually it starts resonating with some number of people. And you're not going to win them all over. You're not going to convert them all. If you thought that, if that was your expectation, you'd be really, really disappointed. But you win a percentage of them. And we know in Arizona, if you get an extra 2% or 3%, that's a big deal. And so you just go for where you can go, and you show respect for the voters, and you hope that this touch will help nudge them in the right direction, and that there will be other nudges later on to get them further along.
Thanks very much. We've got a question from Paul Wagaman. Go ahead, Paul.
It's more a comment than a question. Something that's part of the dilemma, I think, that some of the other questions prior brought up. And I think what I'm seeing is the generational gap getting wider as a lot of us get older. we have never communicated, we have never gotten information the way a lot of people are doing it now. Younger people are doing it. And I think that tells us that we need to get into those sort of those information bubbles somehow with the right stuff, actionable information for people who don't read the paper, who don't watch network television, who look other places and are getting a lot of bad information.
Oh, that's an excellent point. I know you do a lot of writing about politics, waiting for your next article. So,
Okay.
Caroline Salcido has a question.
Diane mentioned that in January you had a retreat, and I was wondering what that looked like, what was good and what was bad about it.
Yeah, we were able to come up with exactly where we wanted to go. We knew we didn't need a whole lot of different goals because we had a very short period of time that we were working on, but it worked fine. And I liked having all of the people involved that we did. Instead of just a small little group going, this is what we need, we had input from a lot of different voices.
I have a question for Diane. And one of the things you didn't talk about was how you find candidates to run for office. This might become a pressing issue for you because one of my favorite state senators, Kirsten Engel, is running for U.S. Congress. And so that would create an opening in LD10. How do you go about finding candidates or letting candidates know how to find you?
You know, that is such a good question because Bonnie just had a meeting with Susan Bickle and myself by Zoom the other day. And that's not something actually that I know LD9 has a wonderful person there who really works hard on looking for candidates. It's like, okay, we haven't had that as far as I know, but we are talking about it now of finding candidates. So that is something that I think we need to work on. Paul, we probably need to work on that. So thank you, Larry. It's interesting. If it hadn't been for the meeting I had with Bonnie just last week, I would be going, huh? What are you talking about? But I know what you're talking about. And you're right. We need to step up the plate. We don't have anything in place for that at this moment, but it's coming. I think it's coming.
Yeah, that would be Wally Marcus in LD9, where I'm a precinct committee man.
Yeah, I've heard about him. Susan said maybe y'all could share him. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he'd be willing to share his time. I had a question, and that is concerning all of the voter suppression and other regressive legislation passed by the legislature when they enacted the budget. Do you feel that that's a topic of communications to let the voters know about?
Absolutely. I know that in the ballot chasing that we're going to be doing just coming up for the Ward 6 and 5 city elections, we're going to mention that to the voters that it's important to vote. Even though it may not be counting right now, we're not going to say that because of voter suppression. It's important that you vote every single time. You must vote. We can't say it enough. You must always vote.
Yes, even as we speak, the legislature is meeting and attempting to ram through even more voter suppression laws. The damage is not done yet. Nikki Merritt, state senator from Georgia, they've got an amazing array of anti-voter bills, being able to give water to people waiting in line at the polls, limiting the number of drop boxes. In the case of Arizona, the damage isn't done yet. The Pevel Purge bill, Larry, that you mentioned, that preemptive attempt to take Katie Hobbs, our Secretary of State, right, who is our great protector, our great advocate for all of us, to protect our elections, to protect our ballots, to protect our right to vote. When legislature goes sine die, when they end, we have the ability as citizens to run a referendum. We have 90 days to gather 118 solid signatures, which is really more like 200,000 to be safe. It's very expensive So there's multiple community groups and coalitions that are working to raise the money as we speak to go after those specific laws. We're going to be carrying, who knows, 2, 3, 4 petitions, all of which require their own legal filings. And then ultimately, each one of those has to have a legal defense fund, because even when we get them, get it on the ballot for 2022, we're going to still have challenges in court. It takes tremendous amounts of money, and that money has to come from somewhere. ADP, absolutely, our election integrity committee. This is an open call to join that committee. That's very important that voters understand, right, what is happening now. I don't think most voters grasp that their right to vote is literally being clawed back from them now. So I hope that answers the question, Larry, suitable to this forum. Joining the EIC, the Election Integrity Committee of the state party, brilliant. DNC has sent down the best legal teams to join with our legal teams in Arizona. We have filed lawsuits. There are more lawsuits coming. The truth is, it's happening so fast. How fast these civil rights are being attempted to get clawed back. The very same bills that are being run in Georgia and Texas are identical copycat bills being run here.
Let me give the last few minutes to Diane Nevill. Give us a wrap up. Tell us how people can get in touch with you and support LD10 and what you would like people to do next.
I'm always happy to talk to anybody. Well, my last slide did have my email, but it's Nevill Peake, NEVILLPEAKE @me.com. Also, my phone number is 602-617-8725. I'm happy to talk with anybody anytime. I appreciate all that you do. You are all working hard in your own LDs, and that's all that we can do, but we're there for each other. We're a big team, in Pima County, we're a big team. In Arizona, we're even a bigger team. So we're all working together. And I think that's what we have to remember. We're there for each other.
Thank you so much, Diane Nevill, chair of the LD10 Democrats. And with that, I'm going to bring the meeting to a close and be sure to invite you to the Drinking Democratically Happy Hour tomorrow night. I look forward to seeing all of you there. See you next time.